Thank you. Good morning and welcome to our Monday, May 23rd, 2022, 9 o'clock strategic planning meeting. Let the record reflect that we have all three commissioners present and our executive management team. And we are going to start this morning with Erica McCowan. Erica, I see you're muted. There we go.
Good morning. Next week on the consent agenda, we are going to have the Title VI plan, and we're just going to ask approval of the Title VI plan. And it's basically the non-discrimination plan that, I'm sorry. It ensures that the county is following non-discrimination in both the public works and the sheriff's office in specific training. It also has an all county training that is a requirement. And the only changes to the plan from the previous year are the sheriff's office had to write a policy memo to ensure that commercial motor vehicle inspections were unbiased and to include enforcement policies as well. And there was also an executive order from 1995 regarding federal actions to address environmental justice in minority and low income populations. And so that was included in at the request of the Federal Motor Carriers Safety Administration, and the org charts and contact information was updated. And that is about it.
Okay, thank you. And so that will be on the consent agenda for next week?
Yes.
Okay, any questions or comments for Erica? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you bringing that forward to us.
Thank you.
Next, we have Chad Coles and Matt Zarakar.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks, Ron. That's our presentation. It is short. And it's on our amended annual construction plan, which is really just the refinement of this year's road construction plan. Next slide, please. So you can see this is our construction program broken out by category. You can see the bulk of our money this year is going into urban roadways, which is typical. Rural roadways also gets a fair amount of money. Those projects, we'll get into some of the major projects in just a slide or two here. Bridge, you can see that one includes the Euclid Road Bridge, which we're moving forward on. Yes, very happy to have that one going forward. And the bulk of the stormwater projects and other is actually that West Terrace project. So yes, I know it's Commissioner Friend's morning. Excellent.
More than happy.
Yes, we are too.
But those are ARP dollars.
Those are ARP.
That.
Yes, correct.
Well, the stormwater is. Yeah, for the stormwater. Yeah.
And Euclid is BNF, so a lot of that. So next slide. Oh, and sorry, Ron. Before we get off this slide, one thing I would like to point out is you can see that out of that $36 million project or program for this year, the bulk of that money is not our money. And the next slide will reflect that more clearly. Thanks, Ron. This is it broken out by funding source. And you can see the county's 8 million. We get a lot of federal money, 18 million this year, 7 million in state dollars. And that bridge, that 2.9 million, again, the majority of that is BNSF money for the Euclid Road Bridge. So really, again, just to point out of that $36.6 million, $0.7 million program, county dollars only are 8.2 million of it. So for every dollar we spend, we're spending 4.5 of somebody else's. So just really a great deal. It's really a tribute to our folks that develop our program and go after those grants. They do a fantastic job. They really do. We got Jamie Hayes and Barry Green, and they really understand the programs. They do a great job on our applications, and it's reflected in the awards that we get. We do really well out there. Okay, next slide.
Can I ask, is local something where we're partnering with one of the cities?
You know, I really don't. That one's so small, I don't know. Do you know what that is, Chad?
That would be either developer contributions or other local.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I know what one that is. That's that ramp meter or roundabout meter at Medical Lake Interchange where we had a developer contribution that's going to a WashDOT project in essence, but WashDOT can't take direct contribution. So we act as the surrogate on projects like that.
And then would some of that be like out of Parker where we,
What's that?
some of that out of Parker where the Morrisons had to reroute?
Could be, yeah, could be. That, they actually fully built that project and we just approved it on the backside. That was a
That would
developer.
be with our program.
So that would be, okay.
So a few of our major projects for this year, obviously Bigelow Gulch Project 6 is underway. They're working on the earthwork right now. The pedestrian undercrossing for the school for East Valley at the bottom. Craig Thorpe intersection, that's 1.5 million. We anticipate having that done this year too. Go out to bid pretty soon and hopefully we'll get some good bids. It's kind of an interesting bid environment, I think, as everybody knows right now. Lincoln Road reconstruction, that's Lincoln kind of through the market, North Market area there. And fairly industrial and a little bit of residential. It's reconstructing the road. It's in pretty tough shape. 1.4 million. And again, we anticipate having that project done this year. Belterre preservation, that one's well underway. It's a CTV project. Goes from Evergreen to Sunrise, is I believe the road name, but more or less between Highway 27 and Sullivan. And we needed that project. We're really happy to get that section of road rebuilt. Country Homes preservation, this is just the northbound lanes. It's a 2-inch grind and inlay project, just to kind of get that whole corridor up to the same level in terms of road condition. And the final one that we talked about earlier, the West Terrace Capital Improvement Project, the stormwater project out on the West Plains. And we have a consultant on board for that one. We have the survey done. We're moving. We're pushing on that as hard as we could. They've given us a schedule and a compressed schedule, and we had them compress that again. So we're trying to get something on the ground this year would be the goal. So that's for where we're at. That's an aggressive goal. We'll be getting after it. We're going to phase it to make that happen. We'll have a lot of public outreach as early as possible to get out there with the neighborhood and let them know we're working on it and get their involvement and their participation.
And hopefully we'll have time when we meet with the constituent out in Saltese area that we could go to Belterre.
Yeah, no, that would be great.
Thank
Do
you.
that. Okay, next slide. And that's it. Does anybody have any other questions for us about the annual amended?
So what is it being amended? I mean, what was it originally and how is it being amended? I guess that's.
Really,
When
it's
we say
just,
that this is the annual amended, I'm just.
yeah, it's just the changes of, because we adopted a program like last year, and this is the changes that have happened between now and then. We've had some additional funding come in, the Railroad West Terrace that we didn't have originally. So it's really just the refinement of the dollars and the funding for our program. And some projects have moved around a little. We were able to advance some and do them sooner, and some are getting pushed a little bit. So it just reflects all those changes. And it's honestly, to the casual observer, our big document does not look appreciably different. It's really for us, it's more the accounting piece of where the project's going, so we can further refine the budget and reflect the changes that we're making. And it's required to be able to do it. Yeah, they say that right, Chet?
It's required.
The real reason.
So as part of the community outreach that Matt talked about, we do have a community meeting on Wednesday evening and stuff. I really appreciate the folks being there to help inform the community about what's ahead and stuff like that. It's you will probably, because as you know, we've got a couple naysayers out there that will get fired up and start seeing emails. But other than that, I mean, we're really in a very positive situation. And I think, the solution that these guys have come up with is really a sound solution and should put an end to a lot of this for a long, long time. So.
Yeah, that's exciting.
No, we're very appreciative that West Terrace in particular is not eligible for other funding sources. So to have this money available is a huge deal, because it was a big problem. We would love to get it fixed, but it would have been hard to do with all county dollars. It would have taken a long time to get there with just the stormwater utility paying for it. So we're very appreciative.
And this is not a problem that anybody here created. This is a problem we're trying to fix and stuff. So we inherited this. So anyway, thank you.
Any other? Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate the update.
So how many days left, Chad?
I have two Mondays left. We get 2 Mondays off.
Not so discount.
You guys get the big stuff to talk. Thank you.
Very good. Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Good. It's like you guys were listening.
It's a long walk too. I quite have my steps in for the day.
That's right. Well, very good. Well, next on our agenda is Jeff Morris and Aaron Schmidt to give us an ARP plan update.
So we were hoping possibly to receive the second half of the funding last week. It did not come yet. Talking with Heather Friday, she's expecting, she gets kind of an email that lets her know what's coming. As of Friday afternoon, that email not come yet. So we don't know if that funding will arrive this week or not. That's at this point, we're kind of overdue from what they've said, but they also made no promises. And then other than that, we are planning on putting up 3 new RFPs, categories we talked about, water conservation, water sewer, and medical expenses on Wednesday. Erin will go over those quickly. And the CLA software is functioning well. Erin's going to show you it. So pass it to Erin.
Ron, would you go ahead and bring up the website? All right, so when when individuals want to apply, our current Spokane County page on our website is still active. And Ron, I didn't think about that, but we can go back to that. We are still pointing people to our ARP page from the county website. So individuals can look at open RFPs. We don't have any open RFPs until Wednesday, but then they are directed to this website. And this particular website then is now being called our ARP application portal. So this just gives an overview just in text about what we received. There's a link to our 2021 annual report. And then as you scroll down, all 6 categories that have been authorized by the US Treasury for allocations are listed. We broke them up into those that either this week will have active RFPs, or we're pretty sure that Broadband might have one in the next week or two, and that can change, mainly because it looked better 3 and 3. And then if you scroll down,
So
yes, sir.
before you get to, so it says minimum acceptable speeds. What is that number?
So when you click the learn more, we'll show you what happens when you go in there. So the up speed and down speed, I don't have memorized. So I'm going to click into the learn more because I thought it was 80 and 100 megabits, both up and download speeds is
Okay.
minimum.
Great, thank you.
So actually, just for grins and giggles, go ahead and click on learn more. You didn't like grins and giggles, huh, Ron? So this is actually the excerpt from the US Treasury final rule. And we kept this word for word because we wanted to make sure we didn't inadvertently say something different. So this is really as per the US Treasury, and that's for that 100 megabit upload download, where we are then articulating the specifics that you as the commissioners have decided within those subcategories is actually in the RFP document itself. So we really felt that was a good blend of national standards and then local preferences. Go ahead and go back to the front page, please. So the 2 that we will be releasing this week, as Jeff indicated, are under the water and sewer infrastructure and support the public health response. Once again, these are the federal treasury titles, and we wanted to make sure we're still using those. If you scroll down, Ron, these are the other 3 that are on the US Treasury, but once again, we are not receiving any RFPs for. Revenue loss, we kind of went back and forth, and in spirit of full transparency, even though no one can actually apply from a competitive standpoint for revenue loss, it is one of the 6 categories. So we just wanted to keep that up there. And the learn more is basically sharing with the public, which Jeff and I share regularly, that revenue loss is not for your revenue loss. It is for revenue loss as per the recipients of the ARP funding. And that has helped a lot of people understand what that means.
So is there a way to kind of put a, in parentheses underneath, before the learn more, saying, you know, really only available to entities receiving a direct ARP funds or something like that? Just so that way, I mean, they know that this is really only for the county is the only one able to do this. Happy to do that.
I mean, it's kind of spelled out by ensure continuity of vital government services by filing budget shortfall.
I think if you spell it out, that received ARP funds.
Mhm.
It's just this morning, we were talking with the Clean Air Agency. You know, they're kind of a government. I don't know if they're government or nonprofit, but there are a lot of groups like that that think of themselves as a government agency, but if they didn't receive ARP funding directly, you don't get a revenue loss calculation.
Yeah. Happy to do that. What we did, just so you guys know, in our short time frame, we took their stock shelf product and tried to utilize as much of it as possible, and then are going to nuances it as we go forward. But I think that's a great idea. Ron, if you don't mind clicking the learn more on the water infrastructure, water and sewer infrastructure. So individuals that would like to learn more about what's an active solicitation, they go to this learn more. This is the entire overview of that category as a whole. It has three large subcategories, which each have additional subcategories related to water and the sewer, and then other. Once they're in there, Ron, if you'll scroll down, we have a number of Spokane County specific links. And so what individuals can do is they can click, Ron, if you go ahead and click on this one, sample application up there. They have not, just leave it right there, that's fine. This is what an entity would see if they're like, this looks interesting to us. What kind of information from a field standpoint is going to be required? What CLA has done is actually back engineered the US Treasury quarterly and annual reports to become their required fields. So by an entity entering in this information, it pre-populates for us all of the things that we as a county are going to need to have come a quarter later when they're awarded. So there was a real specific to detail on this. This is just a screenshot. They can't do with this, but this is entity, what will I need? So go ahead and back, Ron. And the reason why all of these are listed as links is there is going to be a login button. And once you log in, that becomes the process, but we wanted to give some previews before somebody decided I want to register and do this for real. So terms and conditions, application terms and conditions, Ron. This is a Spokane County specific, another term for it is certified document. So these are the things that in order to be an ARP subrecipient, these folks need to know are above and beyond the regular kind of normal things that you would get as a recipient. So kind of a buyer beware statement. And yep, you're going to have to sign the dotted line on this if you want to be an ARP subrecipient. Jeff and I regularly still clarify to folks that ARP is not CARES. And it's not just money to do it. There's a lot more overhead on that. Go ahead and go back. And then W-9 is, you don't need to click on that. It's just a stock W-9. We have a specific Spokane County contractor form, a Spokane County specific risk assessment form, application grant assessment. So all of those things are those that are going to be part of the package that once you are determined a selected firm, you will need to include before it can go on BOCC consent for an acceptance. These aren't active yet, but open RFPs as of this coming Wednesday, we will have 2, and they'll be able to read through them before they apply to see if they like the terms and conditions. We are doing this process completely within the ARP application portal. We did the first couple through the public
CLA.
purchase, the CLA.
You said ARP.
I'm sorry, ARP. Well, I'm calling it the application portal.
But this is the Clifton Larson
Yes,
package that,
yes,
that we purchased.
yes. So, yes, the CLA ARP application portal, the first few we did through public purchase under purchasing, that has now been completely moved over. So we're doing this all within here. So applicants don't have to register through public purchase. I'll be serving as that touch point through the the bid process, posting clarifications. So it's really, I think, going to simplify things and I think make it a little more intuitive. There are a lot of things that aren't true procurement in the ARP allocation that we had to do lots of clarifications on because we weren't soliciting someone to do work on behalf of the county. This is reviewing things for an award. So I think this is going to help clarify those. So once again, we'll leave this open for 3 weeks, just abiding by kind of current Washington procurement standards, and then close it. And then the review process will also happen completely within here. It will follow the same things that we did with the other ones, but inside the CLA portal. And then once again, the short list will come to you for review as well as an overview of all applicants. And you guys can confirm that for us to move forward in the contracting stage.
We will also, the 3 awards that have already been granted, including the one that purchases software, and then the sole source, we will backfill into this program.
Yeah.
So everything that goes out ARP wise will be contained within this one software package for perpetuity and posterity's sake.
And at the end of our subscription, we will actually get a massive update of everything that was in there. So when we decide to end our subscription with CLA, we actually get a repository export that we can just put on our internal IT site so that we can have for statute of limitations and beyond of everything in a microcosm that we did on this portal.
Any questions for Mary? No, I think it's gonna be awesome.
We're very
I'm
excited.
sure you are. Sure you are. Any other updates?
Did you want to talk about how our activities related to broadband are going or do that later?
No, I mean, I have that under miscellaneous, but I can certainly talk, since you're in the room right now, I don't know if you're staying. or
I'll
not.
be back for miscellaneous for Ukraine. So if you want to do it, that works too. Okay.
So, yeah, you're welcome to stay in. We'll
I
just
think
keep
that's it.
it
Just so just remember three new RFPs open
Wednesday.
Wednesday, 2 in water sewer, the medical expenses under public health. And everybody who has submitted their idea through the county's portal, if they left an email address, they will receive notification.
Okay.
We'll work with Jared as far as getting out whatever avenues we have for awareness, but those ones will open Wednesday. That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So next we're gonna go to our miscellaneous items, and so Gary. Yeah, you're supposed to sit that down.
Thank you, Commissioner. First up is the selection of a bond underwriter for the small arms range. And I'd recommend a motion by the board to use Barclays for the upcoming bonding for the small arms range. Is there any discussion that you'd like to have about that?
Yeah. Is it gonna be a resolution on the consent agenda or?
I was going to approach it as a by-leave item. Tomorrow, unless you want to handle it any differently.
Tomorrow's fine, or if we do it
Tomorrow. Okay. And then,
And before you do that, so I was at the finance committee meeting on when did we- Thursday,
Thursday.
and somehow in the new bond policy, the debt policy, it was put in there that the treasurer's office is the one who actually or the finance, is it the finance committee? I get is the one who is supposed to authorize the underwriter for the bonds. And I was like, I don't think that's the case. I said the commissioners haven't, delegated our authority on that to the finance committee, so they're looking at that policy. And so we'll be re-looking at that policy, and I think they realize statutorily they don't have the authority to do that. So it is the commissioners that have to, agree to the contract with the underwriter. I mean, you can.
And
speak to it.
the financial advisors as well is also
Is it
called
both?
out that, yeah,
And bond.
and bond counsel,
Three things.
all three legs of the stool.
So they'll be re-looking at that they can recommend. I said, if you're, feel like the consensus was that they felt like they weren't getting the information. I said, we post it on our agenda and we'll make sure that you're invited to the meetings when we talk about bond counsel or underwriters or any of that. You're welcome to attend the commissioner meeting and be part of the discussion.
In fact, you invited them to come today, to this morning's briefing.
Did I?
Yes.
I didn't know exactly when it was gonna be, but I was just like, we'll make sure. So that'll be Gary on you to make sure that anytime it comes before the commissioners that they're invited so they can attend if they would like to attend. But, we are not delegating our authority, so we'll still be making the decision.
But we are appraising them as you saw in my emails on Friday. I'm keeping them abreast of everything that's coming
And-
about.
And as we know, even with bond counsel, underwriting or bond counsel, it is it's the prosecutor that is the one who actually does that, not even us. So, so it's just interesting that somehow that got in the policy. So,
Has the debt policy recently changed? I know Casey Evans worked on a draft that,
it was October of last year.
yeah, and Casey worked on a draft. I would say that's probably in that time frame, and send it to, I think you were in charge of, or you were serving.
I was on there.
Yeah, so at you and Vicky, so he included you and Vicky in that analysis, and there was a substantial rewrite of the bond or their financial documents, that particular policy. And they just kind of wanted Casey to sign off on it. Casey made a number of edits, so we never saw the document after that, so.
Okay.
If that got changed somehow, I don't know how it would have without a commissioner and an auditor voting in favor of it, because that's the.
Well, I think they both voted in favor of it. I think it didn't come back before the full board. So, which it doesn't have to, but it also, they can't, without the commissioner's approval, they can't take over our authority of our contracting authority. At least that's my understanding.
I'll look through this a little more. I agree. But yeah.
So anyways, if we want to take a look at it and, I was supposed to get a red line copy, but I didn't receive that yet to know what changes were made. And they said they were, making the changes based off Dwayne Davidson and all of that, but, counties are all different and some may delegate their authority. So,
So when did Dwayne get elected as county commissioner?
no,
No,
Dwayne Davidson when he was
Being
treasurer.
facetious.
Yeah.
Being facetious.
So anyway, with all this going on, it's like, they were like, well, I literally was told, you're not supposed to be, appointing the underwriter. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not appointing the underwriter? So it was,
What you talking about?
it was, a good conversation. I would say it was anything bad. It was just, we're just making sure everyone understood who's got the contracting authority and who, if they want to recommend. They can recommend all they want.
And in the debt subcommittee that was formed, myself and Jason Link and Arthur Witt met numerous times and created a couple of red line copies. I think that's what he was referring to sending you. And in those red line changes, you would see that was changed to ensure that the commissioners had the authority to select bond counsel, financial advisor, and underwriter
The ones that,
in the red line copies.
in the red line
Yeah.
copies. Okay.
But for some reason, I think that the treasurer wasn't maybe given or appraised of that red line draft. And that's been being worked on for the last couple of months.
Okay. Yeah,
Because he didn't appear to acknowledge that.
no. So anyway, so that just so you guys know, that's what happened at the finance committee meeting. And so we're looking into making some changes.
Gary, could you add a little bit of clarity for the board? The difference between the process for the bond counsel and financial advisors where they're taking action to approve a contract. How does the underwriter process work? So they're gonna be doing a motion, but walk
Yes.
through that.
Thank you. What you're going to do in a motion tomorrow is just getting your acquiescence to starting the use of a bond underwriter, in this case Barclays. The actual document that would be used in a contract form would be right up until the bonding is assured, like days before the bonding. And that, like last year, we ended up with a bond purchase contract with Barclays just days before it went to market. And because there's uncertainty leading up to that process, that's why at this point you don't engage or enter into a contract with a bond underwriter until there's a certitude that that's what's going to happen. And of course, the bond underwriter's fees are all part of the cost of what the bond issuance is. So that's a little different, than a normal situation like next, the selection of a financial advisor where you're actually entering into a contract pre-bonding at this stage versus right before the bonds take place. Because unless you have favorable market conditions and the financial advisor advises you that it's in the best interest of the county financially, you may pull the plug and not go to a bond right up until the day before bonding. So the next thing is the selection of a financial advisor, and that's on your consent agenda for tomorrow, and that's item CO, and that's with Northwest Municipal Advisors. And that's the same, basically the same contract that we've had with them before. Fees are is exactly the same. And the only thing that I'd want to call your attention to in that agreement is the fact that we are specifically calling out the fact that if excluded from this agreement with Northwest Municipal Advisors are any bonds that the county may issue for airport projects. And we did that exclusive or that addition to the contract because I think that the recommendation for use of a financial advisor for the airport bonds would be PFM. And specifically a gentleman that has expertise on it from Cincinnati that works with PFM. So one of the things that we are looking at, of course, is the agreement that the county would also have with PFM. And because of the calendars and everything, we're working to bring a contract together for next week's board consent agenda to sign for PFM. So the other thing that we would probably need to talk about as we get further down the road is the use of which bond underwriter that you would like to start using for the airport bonds too. Something to keep in the back of your mind. We don't have to make any of those decisions now. It's just that something that you'll have to give a head nod to in the future.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't use Barclays? Because I'm sure they have expertise, already. So I mean, it's just, and Sean knows the county well. So.
And I think I forwarded on to you some of the documents that Barclays supplied me with their airport experience. And in working with Barclays in the past, they've been very good as it relates to being available anytime we need answers and working with our financial advisor. So unless you see a reason to change, I would recommend the use of Barclays also for the airport bonds.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
And of course, our bond counsel is Pacifica, and I think we're on track for using them for all of our county bonding.
Would you like to the motion to cover both the small arms range and the airport expansion, just to get that signal done now.
For Barclays, for the underwriter.
Yeah, for Barclays,
Okay,
or we can come back later on on the airport. Up to you. Do it both at one time.
No, That's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine doing.
Okay.
okay, so we'll have that as a by leave tomorrow. Very good. And I think, oh, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is on the small arms range bonding. And we had thrown out the idea about using some of our general funds to be able to buy down our portion of the bonds. Now, the small arms range is going to be a combination of two bond issuances. The first is $15 million, which is the Air Force portion of the bond, and that's going to be a taxable bond. The next is approximately 25 million, that's on the county, and that's going to be tax exempt. So two separate issuances. Now, if we were able to buy down that 25 million by 10 million, that would approximately save us about $600,000 a year out of REIT 1 and that's how we would be servicing the debt anyway, but that would free up REIT 1 capacity if we did so. And right now we do have capacity in the general fund to buy that down. So this really is a key component before going into the bonding process to obligate the county on how much we're going to bond.
So I think we need to have an analysis as to where we're at on both REIT and anticipated uses of REIT with it, where our fund balance is to know what we have available to then be able to make that decision.
So the key components of making that decision in my mind are that, what are you saving in terms of the interest rate savings? What you're going to do with that REIT 1 fund, you can decide down the road if you have that capacity. So we probably need to make a decision sooner rather than later on the applicability and the propensity of the county to use those funds in this manner.
Yeah, I completely agree, but we need to see that analysis. Having no numbers in front of us, it's hard to make a decision, today.
So you'd like to see a REIT 1 schedule projected out for a number of years that shows what the current balance is, what we estimated coming in, and then no uses of it today, and what that delta might yield for us in terms of
Right,
if we
and
buy it down.
Right, what
The
the
delta is
interest
about
is.
600,000. We already did that analysis. So do you need further analysis?
Well, I would like to
Schedule.
see the analysis.
Sure. Tessa, would you like to send that to Commissioner?
Well, how about we schedule a meeting, and if you're not going to come back before the commissioners, would the other commissioners like to see that analysis?
We can bring it back next week.
600, I trust their numbers are probably accurate. If you'd like to send it to me, I'll look it over.
So partly it's like I need to, I want to know where our fund balance is to know where are we taking the money to pay it down? And what are some other potential uses? There's been lots of discussions of lots of ways we can spend our fund balance. So I think that's just one of those that I want to make sure that we know where we're at.
Yeah, it's purely discretionary on your part. See, and exactly like you're alluding to, you have other uses potentially for those general funds, and there's certainly other uses that the board could decide to use that 10 million for.
Why don't we bring back both the REIT 1 schedule, the projection schedule, as well as an estimate of our fund balance as of today, and then we can have those in front of you. You can see what the choices are. That if you do this, then this is the impact on REIT. If you don't do this, this is the impact on REIT. Here's the impact is on fund balance, choosing one or the other.
Right. Because one of the things that has come to my attention recently is that if we expanded the lanes of the small arms range, would we have the potential to get an east side training facility instead of sending everybody over to Purian, that we potentially could have a training facility over here, use it.
That's betting on the come though, because you want to have money set aside in case that becomes a reality.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying this are just discussions that we're just starting, I don't know if, John Knowles has talked to any of the other commissioners. So but if that's a possibility, I mean, that would be huge for us as the county and for Eastern Washington to not have people, now that the state went from 4 weeks to 10 weeks for training for our detention services and our law enforcement. If we could get that over here, I mean, that would be huge for, those families, for potentially getting people to come to work here instead of thinking they've got to go to Burien for basically 3 months.
Is that still contingent on the state designating us a
Yes.
training,
Yes.
which they've already told us no?
Already told us no.
We think
There's-
building this is gonna change their mind?
I'm hearing there's discussions that things may change that way.
Okay,
Because again, partly they went from 4 weeks to 10 weeks. Now, in this last legislative session, was what the training weeks went to.
And in the last legislative cycle, I recall them passing some bills saying, making it definitive that CJTC was the only place where we could get
Yeah.
law enforcement training,
That's what I remember too.
the
Yeah.
exclusive place. So that would have to be changed.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, so yes, there's a few little uphill battles to be won, but I think that there could be enough pressure with people really understanding and knowing, again, they've gone from 4 weeks to 10 weeks. Will be a new sheriff. So, and we've got this, new state-of-the-art training facility that there's some optimism that I'm hearing.
And I hope
So one of the logics for me in terms of using the 10 million to pay down the debt was freeing up the REIT. The other thing that we have to do is we've got to get in compliance with their LOS for parks. And if we don't do that, we're not going to be expanding our UGA. And so those REIT funds are, what is typically used to be able to pay for parks and stuff. So we're not going to spend the $10 million to be able to buy capacity in the REIT, then I'm gonna want to campaign for that $10 million. It's got to go buy parks, or at least get us into compliance with our own comprehensive land use plan so that we can expand the UGA, because without that, we don't get any more housing. We're done. And stuff. So that for me is a real today issue in terms of driving that conversation.
Well, and I wonder the board might want to consider adjusting down the level of service for parks in light of
Absolutely.
broadband, in light of internet access, and maybe we don't need that square footage.
We're having those conversations now to drive down the LOS in a number of different areas. Libraries, parks, a couple other issues. Because it's a different day today than it was 25 years ago.
Well, which is why I just think we need to have a broad conversation about, what there, because I know there's, probably 10 things we could be spending that money on. We need to be able to make some decisions on that.
Yep.
lots of decisions to be made.
Yes. But can't make those decisions if we don't know what the availability is, what we're looking at, what the additional costs are.
And what all your options are for the
Right.
future use of general fund.
So,
Does this warrant, I'm just throwing it out, this brainstorm, it might die a lonely death. That's what I was thinking, some kind of workshop or, retreat or something. Let's just spend a couple hours just talking about what our priorities are, and where we're at with the reserve accounts and stuff.
but I assume you had mentioned about having just general budget workshops. I honestly don't remember if we picked dates for those or
Not yet, no.
not. Okay. Well, maybe this is what we discussed at the first one.
Yeah,
I think we have to determine what we think we're gonna bond sooner than later for the small arms range. Is that correct, or can we not know the exact amount as we move forward?
You can move forward without knowing the exact amount. However, in looking at the marketability and the interest rates, a lot of it is predicated on the dollar amount of bonding.
So then that would be other information we need in order to make the decision. That you would
But
need to bring forward to us.
So when you're talking about the experts forecasting what the market rates will do at a certain time, we'll have to get that information and interface with them directly to see what are those determinative dates when they'd like to have the absolute decision made on that, on a bond.
I'm free on Friday.
Sure. I'll make it work.
So no, so it sounds like, I mean, there's just a lot of information that we need to be able to make a well-informed decision.
Sure. So is there any discussion on dates for a workshop?
I just threw out Friday.
Gary put on vacation day.
But I can, that's fine.
Is he really?
We don't have to do Friday, but when would you
Just
be
do it on a-
available? I mean, we can just do it on
I-
Monday or
A
Tuesday.
Monday
No.
afternoon or a Tuesday morning, because those have been really light. So.
The next few Mondays are,
Yeah. Next week, our Monday, yeah, we're not meeting on Monday, it's holiday.
so we can meet Tuesday morning.
We have Tuesday morning, we could, I'm sure there'll be some briefing items for the following weeks. Well, we don't have a consent the following week, so actually we have next Tuesday morning that we could use specifically for this.
Tuesday morning, the 31st.
Yep.
Yeah,
That works.
Is that enough time to get all the information that we need? Yes.
it'll get us enough information so that you'd feel comfortable making a decision, I think. Because we can't predict with certainty, of course, a lot of what our cash positions will be a year, 2 years in advance, given the fact that we haven't settled union contracts, what's going to happen operationally in the general fund. There's a lot of contingencies, but we'll just try to get it to a narrow best guess.
And then will we know kind of what Commissioner French is saying, if we need to purchase more parkland, what does that mean? Because we need to know what that, approximate cost would
Sure.
be.
Assuming you're not going to pay down the bonds so that you free up Route 1, right?
Yes, so paying down the bonds is just one option. So, then another option is if we need to use that money for parks. I mean, we need to be able to look at all those different things. That's why I'm not sure that.
Sure, and
Tuesday
it'll
before-
encapsulate a little
holidays
bit
can
more,
be
also in terms of what monies you want to set aside for restricted reserves and for capital funds too. Because when we're talking about general fund dollars, that enters into the bigger picture.
So I would probably suggest we wait till the week after. Oh, no, because you guys are.
Where do you see?
I just don't know that we're gonna have all the information that I'm gonna be comfortable,
Well,
because, I mean, this is a lot of people are taking Friday off and then Monday's the holiday, so. So it's only, a few days.
Maybe a suggestion is, we won't have information on the parks level of service. That's a work in process with the update to the comp plan and our levels of service. But I think we could have some general discussions around kind of the budgeting process for this year, earmarking some work sessions, start to talk about some of the potential decision points around the small arms range bonding, REIT capacity, other potential uses that just stimulates the conversation more of what you're all having today, but we're just dedicating that time to it. Whether any decisions can be made or not, at least it starts the discussion, and we're right at the front end of the budget process. So Gary and Tess have been working on some draft budget schedules when the departments would need to be providing information, what you all want to have in work sessions, particular topics, revenue topics, expense topics, department topics, getting down into the REIT and other uses, mental health, sales tax, those sort of things. So we can start discussing those and laying out when we want to start sequencing those sort of work sessions throughout June, July, and all that sort of stuff. We could use it as a kind of a brainstorming.
yeah, I agree. I think it'd be productive even if we don't have every penny nailed down on the 31st.
It's our forecast. We're still working on our forecast. The forecast for the rest of 2022 and out. Gary and Tessa and team are waiting on us to close out the year for 2021, which will be a big information point for us to then begin layering in forecasting assumptions for the rest of this year. So that's still, We don't have that information yet, but at least we can start to talk about when we think timing is of having that data to be able to have information in front of.
Because that'll be by the 15th of June.
So
We'll have that.
We're optimistic.
So you're campaigning not for the 2nd of June.
Well, no, to do the 2nd of June, but just do a kind of a brainstorming, so whatever that
okay.
Tuesday is, to just start to talk about. where-
31st of May.
Oh, you want to do it on Tuesday? I was thinking the Thursday is, I think we're all open in the afternoon if you wanted to do a retreat or, Friday as well. So,
I think
but-
Tuesday morning.
so if we're doing this, then, so we're not going to be doing a briefing on so Tuesday morning will be just dedicated to this then,
The 31st.
the
A
31st.
couple hours of it would be.
So we don't have, Commissioner, we don't have any consent or public hearings scheduled for the following week because it's a DC fly-in, so we wouldn't have
Right.
any pre-briefings for it. So
Okay.
it does free up the 31st in the morning if that's desired to do it.
Yeah, all right. Not a problem. Yeah, we'd be here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Ariane.
Yes, so we have received all the required components for a contract package to award Thrive International as the subrecipient for the Ukrainian stabilization tier 1 funding, which is in the tune of $1 million. It has to be expended in totality by the end of the state's budget this year, which is June 30th. So that will be on consent agenda tomorrow. We've already been having conversations with Thrive because this funding does allow for reimbursements, having them working with the Ukrainian Refugee Coalition that Forrest briefed this board on, so that they are acquiring documentations from the member churches who have on their own accord done that. We have a fixed formula per person or per family that we've tagged an amount for, so that there's no discretionary decisions. That has been approved by the Department of Commerce. So long story short, we've kind of gone over a draft budget reimbursement for that component, as well as what they see as large components for June 30th. So I think that honestly, well before June 30th, we'll have a submission for review, a compliance check by grant staff to have that done and out the door. We have an ask into Commerce for what's called the tier 2 funding, which would start July 1st. We received notice from Commerce that they had lots of interest from counties that well exceed the pot of money available. So we really just don't know whether or how much will be in the running for tier 2. So I'm really glad we'll be able to make some impact on our community for those that really did a lot just on their own accord coming in for the tier 1 money. So that's expected tomorrow on consent.
Great. And we'll just, since you're here, move up the curb. So Erin and I went over on Thursday to the curb board and presented asking for a $50,000 planning grant for broadband for South County and West Plains, excluding Area Heights, because Area Heights had already gone after theirs. We did receive that with the caveat that Area Heights and Spokane County will have to do an MOU, so that way we're sharing information back and forth, because they were very impressed with what we had done in South County, and Area Heights had said that they've been working with us, I think just with Commissioner French.
Yeah.
But we need to really all be working together, and so there will be an MOU coming forward for Area Heights and Spokane County to be working together more on that, to just make sure that, just broadband doesn't just end at their borders, it's how it affects the rest of the unincorporated area around that. So we're really excited about that, then we're going to know what the needs are for our community, from that perspective. And Petrocor will be the agency that we will contract with. They're a municipal corporation, so we can contract directly with them. So
Commissioner, just a clarification, that actually won't be a contract, it will be an interlocal agreement. And so
There we go.
that's
Thank
just a little nuance that, we'll just make our staff aware of, because we can do an ILA with them and Joe had said. So that will be a good, I think, different pivot that will set us up well too. So sorry.
Yeah, and they've already done a lot of the analysis, like in the other counties surrounding us. So as questions were asked, as coordinating with other counties, and Petrichor has already, basically done the broadband for Whitman County, and they're working with Stevens County right now. So so that helps us as we look then to how it just all kind of flows in and out of our county. So we're really excited that we got the planning grant and moving forward.
And I think Petrichor is a good horse to ride. They, like you, Mary, you said, they've got great experience. They've done a lot of work for the Port of Whitman and provided broadband service to the south all the way to WSU.
So, not campaigning, just asking a question. Is there any value in including in ILA with Airway Heights, the West Plains PDA, since they were already contracting to expand broadband with the Kalispells or not? I don't know whether that's a plus or minus, but
So in our planning, we don't need an LA, a memorandum of understanding with the West Plains PDA, because they're already, I think, included in what we put
okay,
into
okay, all
for the
right,
planning grant.
okay,
So it's for South County up to the West Plains, excluding Airway Heights, because Airway Heights had done their already
Okay.
asked for a grant.
got
So
it,
now we're gonna be kind of not using our $50,000 for Airway Heights because they got their own,
right,
but we're including Medical
Okay.
Lake, and so we may want to, I don't know. But the planning grant is certainly up into the West Plains.
thank you.
Going back to the stool analogy, there's actually 3 little rungs on the stool. The first one, this interlocal agreement, is actually the artifact to allow Petrichor to do the study for that area.
Okay,
The second artifact is a memorandum of understanding between the city of Airway Heights and Spokane County that the 2 planning grants will be coordinated and sharing information, mainly because we didn't catch it quick enough and do a big one. And then the third one is our broadband action team, which we will be reviewing or having a next meeting in May, June-ish, not only for what's going on in South County, but to your point, what's going on in the west side, including the city of Spokane, so that there is awareness among all the stakeholders, tribes included, kind of this holistic approach, which is pretty exciting. And I think shows that the county is really looking at this, knowing there's unique niches in different areas.
And Kurt was definitely excited at how quickly we've been able to get like those MOUs with South County towns and that team, put together, so that way we can have that, because that is definitely a key for them as well as commerce as we move forward for any other grants.
And the NOFO announcement is June.
See what NOFO is.
Oh, I'm sorry, the notice of funding opportunity by the state broadband office is going to be June 15th. So that will be good that we will have all of these in place, and that's for the much larger pot of money that will allow us to build out whatever this scope, Airway Heights scope, and other things are up north.
okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Scott, you're on next.
Couple of consent agenda items for tomorrow, just to bring to your attention. There are 2 board appointment reappointments for the SIA board. A couple of the county appointments are coming up for their terms. Yeah, their terms are expiring this year. And so both of those individuals are on the board consent agenda tomorrow to reappoint them. And I believe continuity of some of the terminal expansion going on. I think it's, what I understand is your desire is to have continuity of that board, so there's familiarity with it. So this would be renewing those appointments for another 3 years for the 2 board members. And that's on your consent for tomorrow.
And just so you know, we'll take one of those separately, and I will recuse myself from the vote.
And those are two different ones that allows for that.
You recuse yourself on the Collins one.
Exactly.
The second thing on your consent agenda tomorrow, amongst other things that I want to cover, is the changes to the Spokane County Code 1.01. And those include the meeting logistics that we've talked about. You've all had a chance to look at.
is reaffirming when consent agenda, when public hearings would be had, reinstituting the open public forum, and also incorporating the latest changes to the OPMA regarding written and oral testimony in there. So unless there's any questions on that or additional changes you want to make, that is on your consent agenda tomorrow to vote on.
Yeah, when I, oh,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, when I was reading through the documents there, I know it says that we're limiting open public testimony to 15 minutes, but if for some reason, in 6 years I've been here, I don't think we've ever had the public testimony, just open public forum ever go 15 minutes, but if for some reason people showed up, a majority vote of us could extend that 15 minutes, correct?
I don't think, I want to read that again. I think it limits it to 15 minutes, and the idea is dividing it among the number of people there by time.
Okay.
So let me read it again.
Okay, I'm just wondering, just as I was reading it, it's like, I mean, again, I don't think in my time here, we've ever had 15 minutes of the open public forum. I mean, we have testifying on certain agenda items, but the open public forum, I don't think we've ever had 15 minutes of open public forum, that people don't show up for that portion of our meetings, but if it did, we would have the ability to extend it. That was the only thing that really stuck out to me.
And
But-
which
And I would think
that was,
with a majority vote of us, we would be able to do that. I'd be surprised if we wouldn't be able to, but just want to make sure that that option is there.
So technically, I think we always reserve the option to suspend the rules. And by suspending the rules, then you can change it to get to a longer period of time. So even if it's not
I'm seeing
written,
some head shakes. So
I think that would probably, our code probably would want to do that. Yeah, it's not like Robert's Rules of Order where you can just vote to suspend those rules. I'll look through our code to see if we have that in there. I haven't seen anything in there that allows us to suspend the legislation. Certainly in terms of like meeting style or how we operate a meeting, our Robert's Rules of Order apply, and we can certainly use those.
Yeah, the only time I've ever seen is at the health district
yeah, health, yes.
where we had it longer and then we adopted the rules.
Tax on to the end.
15 minutes.
And then if anybody beyond that, they justify it's open public forum again at the end. That's what the health district does, but I don't think we've ever had that many people show up to fill 15 minutes for the open public forum here. But we're just not that fun, I guess.
It's a special meeting on water.
Well, no, but those are people testifying on the agenda item, not in open public forum. So.
That's true.
It does have in here, it says, there shall be an allotment of meeting time that shall not exceed 15 minutes unless extended by the chair of the board
Okay,
at the beginning of each weekly regular session. I thought there was something.
okay, I didn't
Yeah,
understand, okay.
for some reason I was thinking it was up to the chair.
So I think that covers
Okay.
what you were looking for.
Okay.
Okay, anything else we want to talk about that one? All right. The next item I want to chat about is there has been a request by our DEM group to convene a compensation board. A compensation board exists for emergency management for the purpose of reviewing any claims by individuals who are working volunteers or others as part of the emergency management operations. And when there's a claim over $2,000, it requires a compensation board to be convened on an ad hoc basis. Anything under 2,000, the DEM group here can work to review those and submit them to the Washington Department of Military on their own. So when it's over $2,000, they do need to convene a board. The board members include the county director of DEM, prosecuting attorney, emergency services coordinator for medical, and the county auditor. And the fifth member is either a county executive if they haven't elected, which we don't, or a member of the county legislative authority. So question to the board is, do one of you want to serve on that board? There's a request to stand up the board right now because there was a incident out at the small arms range a couple of 4 weeks ago. Or would you want to delegate and have me serve as that board member?
And the purpose is to review the claim and to then submit it to the Washington State Department of Military, who would then handle the assumption and payment of that claim.
God, I really like you to do this.
I'd be
I'm
happy to
not
have you
lobbying
do
for it, but if that's what you desire. And perhaps just a motion to delegate to the CEO to serve as your representative on that board.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved
Can
and
can I ask
seconded.
who else is going to be on that?
Yep, DEM director, the county auditor, the prosecuting attorney, and they call it the Emergency Services Coordinator for Medical and Health Services.
Would it,
5
would
members.
it make sense to have risk management on that as well, just with what you're dealing with? I mean, I would think Steve would have pretty good knowledge of those types of things.
Deals with risk claims all the time.
Yeah. It makes sense to have him
Yeah,
have a presence on that.
These are, I don't disagree. What I understand is the claim will be reviewed by the board and recommended for approval by the board. It would go to the state Department of Military Services to then process the claim and pay it. So it wouldn't be coming out of our risk pool.
Mhm.
So
But I'm just saying, just knowledge of that type of industry and that type of,
You can ask him to attend with you.
seems like he'd be valuable in that.
But we're delegating the motion on the floor is to delegate his work to you.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Sorry, Scott. No.
serve your pleasure.
Excited to do it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think then the last
I've got
thing
the
is,
West Plains tip after yours as well.
okay, so I got a request this weekend for the Waspic Mental Health Field Response Team grant letter of support. So that's just the code employee teams getting the grant from Waspic. Suddenly, I guess Waspic just put it out and needs it within a week, so asking if we can just do the same letter of support we did last time and just change the date.
so Jared, make a motion that we draft a signed letter and other than an open public meeting to be signed by the chair of the majority of the board in support of the Waspec Mental Health Field Response Team Grant Program.
Ready to sign it today.
I'll second.
Well, we have to have a motion to sign it.
Okay, and you said it other than open public meeting. we can sign it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, maybe
Second.
motion second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Okay, Scott, you have one more?
Yes, board members, you had received a letter recently from some of the bondholders for what's called the medical lake TIF. This is out on the West Plains. It was established back in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. The request is to issue another $700,000 in bonds to complete some public infrastructure on Soda Road between Geiger and Electric Ave to extend the roadway and improve that. So it's right now it's a unimproved road between the two. It's partially improved, I think, from the south to toward the north, but not all the way through to Electric. So in considering this, we wanted to give some information to the board around the outstanding bonds that are in place today and what was originally authorized by the board in terms of the initial TIF. So when the bonds were formed originally, when the TIF was formed originally, the board did approve total bonding capacity up to $30 million. There were 3 series of bonds that have been issued and are outstanding today. I'm going to have Tessa go through some of the details of it, but at a high level, 6.2 million in bonds were originally issued in 08, 2010, and 2016. That's the cumulative total of those. They have maturity dates ranging from 2030 out through 2037.
And I'll have Tessa run through of those 6.2 million, how much is outstanding to date, how much we're collecting annually in property tax incremental revenues that is paying those things down. So it gives you a sense of how the bonds are performing to give you some information on whether you want to consider this request.
Yes, so in 2008, we established bonds and sold bonds for $1.2 million. Revenue has been coming in consistently to pay on that debt. So we are to date on the 2008 issuance. In 2010, we issued $3 million. The revenue coming into the TIF was not strong enough at the, when those bonds were first issued to pay a significant portion of that debt. We did do some kind of a debt restructuring in 2012, where we took $1 million off of that 3 million, leaving, and with some payments, leaving kind of 1.7 and change hanging out there. We are now current on paying the 2010 debt. So we paid 2008 and 2010 with current revenues. We issued in 2016, $2 million more in debt. And we have been accruing interest on that debt since that issuance. We are just now making payments on the 2016 debt. So we are not caught up and current yet on 2016. And the current revenues coming into the fund are around $850,000. It's kind of incrementally growing consistently now, to where we are able to make some good payments on the debt, and hope to have accrued interest on the 2016 knocked off soon and start making principal payments on the 2016 debt.
The outstanding balance on all of the debt issuances right now is about 3.7.
Yep.
So of the original 6.2, there's about 3.7 remaining on it. And the 830 is pretty strong. As Tessa mentioned, it'll pay off the accrued interest on the 2016 here in the next couple of years. And both the other two debt issuances are current in terms of their debt service schedules.
So how much was the interest on that?
The 2016 has accrued about 1.5 million. Is what the treasurer's office is showing us.
So it's starting to become a performing loan, as the banks like to call it.
Yep.
And so what is the ask?
The ask is for 700,000 to issue another series of bonds. And I should clarify too that the bond issuances are purchased by the property owners out there who had asked to establish this. So all of the risk is really on the bond holders for performance of this. The county has given its incremental taxes towards it, 75% of, to go and pay it, but the full risk is on the bondholders for repayment.
So, but what is the interest rate going to be on the additional? I know it was like 8%.
It was
on
8% on all the others.
Which was really high.
They have not requested in their letter to us. They have not requested a particular interest rate. So I think that's open for discussion.
So we definitely need to discuss that and not have, the current rates are not 8%.
So the board does now have Pacifica in place for bond counsel, and bond counsel in the past has been the one who's led the charge on issuing this. As I recall, the services that the bond counsel would provide is a direct agreement with the bond, with who would be purchasing the bonds. The county would not be paying for the use of the bond counsel, but it would be our bond counsel. So they would be the ones who would have a direct relationship with the bondholders who would be buying these bonds. So with that, we could do some more work on more of the details around what the 700,000 is, what the term of it is, what the interest rate is, to be able to come back to the board. Today, we just want to give you an overview of how the bonds are performing to date, and give you a sense of whether or not there look to be some. One, is there capacity? Yes. Two, is there a desire to move forward, pending some of the details of the bond issuance? I think from what we've been able to see is they are performing. In fact, if it 700,000 aside, if it continues to come in, and I see no reason why our property taxes wouldn't continue to come in at the same rate, they'll be enough to pay these, early retire these bonds well before the 2037 date.
And that's just the property tax. That doesn't include sales tax.
Correct.
Or any other, job creation revenue or anything like that. That's just property tax.
Yep. And if I recall,
Go ahead. And then, so what do you think the market rate is right now for a commercial loan?
I don't know what it is.
About 6.5 and stuff. And that there's 2 more rate increases by the Fed. So we're probably going to be at 7.5%, 8% in about 30 days, 30 to 60 days. But negotiate the best deal we can on the
Yep.
interest rates. I mean, don't want to pay more, I'd rather pay less.
Okay.
But yeah, just the market is just moving so damn fast. It's scary.
the, if I understand correctly, the library district had agreed to contribute their incremental tax as well. They're the only ones, other than the county, our general fund that our general bonding capacity under our property taxes, general property tax levy that was contributed. So we'd also have to reach out to the library district and see if they want to contribute their incremental for that 700,000 as well, such as some of the other minutia that we'd have to work through.
The fire district is still building capacity, and that's Fire District 3, I believe.
I think you're correct.
Yeah, I think it's Fire District 3 and stuff, and then what's the other district that the school district is the other one. And I think that's Cheney
Cheney.
School District,
Yep.
yeah.
And I
So-
don't believe either of them had elected to participate.
They
in the
did
past
not,
ones.
they did not, yeah.
Okay. So we can move forward with evaluating what the market will support for this, what an interest rate would be, term of the debt, bring back to the board for your concurrence that you want to do that. All right. Okay. Thank you. It was all my items. Sure.
Any other miscellaneous items?
Yes. You want to have an exec session, right, for a real estate discussion?
Yes, refreshment.
Let's see here. Notes.
Oh, yes.
So
Go ahead.
open it up and get it into there.
So there's no other miscellaneous items coming for the board, but we do have an executive session. Oh, Mr. McLean.
So essentially, there's a building that's for sale. It has, as I understand it, may have some issues that would discuss the minimum price. Therefore, the executive session would be to discuss that minimum price under RCW 4230-110-1.
And all those in attendance.
Should be the executive management team. You actually don't need me in it unless you want me in it.
Prefer for you to
To
stay.
discuss any legalities about that, I can have.
We don't do anything without you.
I know. Okay, and how long do you think? 10 minutes?
I wouldn't have a yes on that.
I would say by 10 minutes, yeah.
10 minutes. Okay,
And
Okay,
no action anticipated on the way out.
correct.
I wouldn't.
Okay, it is 10:20. We're going to go into executive session for 10 minutes and we will be adjourning after that. Thank you all very much for attending, and you heard the reason and who's in attendance from our complaints. So thank you very much.